Thanks so much to everyone for joining our first masterclass with the MET Orchestra Musicians. I'm Claire Cunningham, CEO and founder of Lessonface, where we have been connecting students with music teachers for live lessons and classes online since 2013. We are thrilled to be hosting these masterclasses with the MET Orchestra Musicians over the next few months and hope that through this interactive online format, we will help to inspire and educate the performers and viewers. I'll give a very brief overview of the format. The performers in these masterclasses were chosen through a competitive application process adjudicated by one of the foremost youth orchestra directors in the world. The masterclasses will follow the ages-old format, albeit virtually, to wit, the performer will play their chosen work, then the panelists will respond within 30 minutes, and then we will move on to the next performer. We will also, time permitting, have a brief Q&A at the end of the sessions. So if you have questions, please enter them in the chat and we will relay them to the panelists. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our panelists, Silvio Danberg-Volpe, Catherine Rowe, and Catherine Fong. And now, Elizabeth Hamilton, a student at Whitworth University in Spokane, Washington, will play the third movement of Sonata No. 2 by Eugene Isai.
you.
Excellent. So accomplished. You should be very proud of yourself. It's not an easy thing to do, something so virtuosic like that.
I would say, this having its parallel with the Bach unaccompanied pieces that you can feel the latitude. Nobody's chasing you around with the conductor, right? There isn't a group of 90 people trying to accompany you. I would say that your instincts are good and that maybe you could follow them farther down the road. You know what I mean? So you have the time to take, it's not a holy sacred piece like when we approach Bach and sometimes we're scared to do everything, and there's no, he's a specialist really, it can be you know what I mean? And I feel like if you can assert more of the opinions that you have and the ideas that you have and take them farther, even in the beginning. So you'd be like the Dies Irae, right? And you're following this line and let me get my violin. It's here somewhere. You can take lots more time. The meaning is up to you. There really isn't a lot of scholarship on this. It's kind of a violinist-centric thing, and I think that you can have more of a point of view. You can take time, you can play with it more. I feel like you were being kind of dutiful at times, and I think it sounded pretty and it sounded simple, but I didn't feel totally convinced of your thoughts about it all the time, as pretty as it did sound. And I thought the Semplice, the first variation, sounded very nice. But anytime you feel like there is time you want to take or a conviction that you have, I feel like it could really be amplified. This is totally up to you, right? Who's the specialist right now? You are. You know what I mean? Can you just try the beginning for us? I thought that pacing was better. I think there are a lot of dynamics that I think it's time to also inject. You've got very clear lines. Nobody's competing with you. It all sounded quite similar except for the marcato, the broken chords at the end. You just try it one more time and really abide by the diminuendi, by the piani, by everything that you see. Really communicate it to us. I thought that was much more magical. Did it feel that way?
I'm gonna take it one step further. Everything that Sylvie said was spot on. All of the chords that you're playing in this beginning and also in the very, very end, and anytime you have any kind of chords, there's voicing to be had. And I feel like that is a lot of what Sylvia is talking about, is the voicing. And I feel like you can roll more of your chords to achieve that melodic line. And I feel like the second and third times that you played it, you were more free and all that. But I feel like maybe add that one extra element of hearing the melodic line in your head and really emphasizing, not necessarily with an accent, but you could, like I said, you can roll a certain chord to achieve this and whatnot. So, I mean, I don't want to keep blasting the beginning again and again and again because we have so many other variations to get to, but that is definitely something to keep in mind. We don't have to do it again. I'm not going to make you do it again. The other, Sylvie, did you have anything else in the other variations?
Yeah, that's exactly right. When you're following the line, and that's applicable to all the variations. You know what I mean? Of course, right? You're always following that so that you're making sense of the melodic line, and you're playing your own accompaniment. So in a sense, you are chasing yourself around, but ultimately that's pretty easy to do, and I know you can. But I think when you have more of a various terrain, it will suggest that to you more, and you'll be able to extract it. I know that you can hear it. I'm sure that you can hear it, right? But it's really communicating it.
I mean, that applies to the third and the fourth variation also. You know, the third variation, if you've done your homework, you know that it's, you know, all of this is an homage to Bach. And in the third variation specifically, you've got the two-part invention thing going on there, right? And, you know, the whole counterpoint, what is counterpoint? Two or more voices that are of equal value. Now, my ear goes to one value than the other, but, you know, it really is what it is. But the one technical thing that I can say, especially when it comes to these types of things like the third, is you're so, you meaning, you know, in general, we are so preoccupied with the left hand that we forget about the right hand. And the right hand is really what dictates the tonal quality of these chords. You still want to play a beautiful, you know, I mean, of course, intonation and all of that other stuff has to be there. But when you're so wrapped up in the left hand, you forget about the right hand. And the right hand is really most of what creates that tone. And to create a single tone is already hard enough. Now you're going to add another note to that and play a chord. I mean, that's really hard, right? So I just ask you, maybe we can do the third variation, and for you to really think about your right and all the different, you know, pressure points to bring out the line that you want to bring out. Yeah? Can we try maybe the third, just the third variation? We can keep, you know, going back and forth, and I'm sure Kat has lots of ideas as well. Okay, so to me, that sounds like you're playing it all kind of on one plane. And what I would like to hear more is the different pressure points and the different, you know, like let's say that we're going for the top line, right? Then I would like to see you place a little bit more emphasis on that top string rather than the lower string. Right now, it sounds pretty even, and it sounds like, you know, the lower string is a little bit kind of full speed ahead rather than following, you know, something else. So do you understand what I'm saying? A little bit, yeah. It's very wordy, sorry. Let's just think a little bit more about pressure points and about which line you would like to emphasize, and to place that pressure point on whatever string that is as you lessen the other string. Do you know what I mean?
Can I jump in? I think an interesting way to practice what Catherine is saying is you could just play one string at a time while fingering both.
Good idea, yeah.
But just have your bow on, and don't forget to vibrate. I find overall, I think you need to vibrate the melodic notes. Even in the pizzicato at the beginning, you need a more melodic feel instead of a attitudinal feel. But do you mind trying the variation 3 again with just playing one voice, maybe just the top voice while fingering both voices? Good. And you can gauge your vibrato. I felt like you were injecting vibrato this time, but it was almost too urgent. a phrase as well, and where you're going in the phrase, that's where maybe the vibrato gets a little juicier. You want to try the lower line?
Okay.
Yeah. It should sound like two really great violinists playing together.
I was reading about this one, and I'm going to be touchy-feely for a moment, if I may, because what they're all basically, we're all saying is that more variation in the line, right, and a willingness, treat it melodically and treat it gently. He wrote this particular sonata, he dedicated it to his friend who lived in his house a lot. And somebody who speaks French can say his name, Jacques Thibault, is that how you say it? Anyway, that was, maybe one of his best friends, like one of these ladies for me, okay? So if one of you two lived in my house during coronavirus, and I wrote you, well, he would lend this guy his Strat and his Belgezzo, I think, if he needed to play a show, and his fiddle was in the shop. And so you're talking about someone he really loves, and that he cares about. And so I think of this, and it's also Bach, which I'm sure whom he admired immensely, as we all do. And so you think about something very special. Do you know what I mean? And with that, you want a lot of care, and you want a lot of, so you're taking care of each line, you're taking care of the vibrato, and there's a willingness to be intimate and to really finish things and think carefully about it. And I think of maybe it's taking it too far, but I think of the way that you love a friend. You know what I mean? And so I think that what we're all saying is to take more care with each of these things. Follow the line, vibrate, bring out the melody. So you just become more intimate. Step in as if you wrote this for your good friend who lives with you. That's maybe too much, but that's how I feel about it.
Okay. Yeah. The other thing that leapt out to me is in the fifth variation, I felt like you could have brought out the top notes a little bit more. We're going along the same lines of the whole, melodic line and direction and all that good stuff. Do you want to try that?
Okay. So like
Yeah. I feel like it was a little bit forced this time. I feel like it can sound a little bit more organic, but that you get the idea, And then the next, like the perpetual motion, the same thing. I would like to see more of a whoosh and a pull and a pull and a push, and it can be very metronomic. And although you didn't play it metronomic, I feel like you can do more of styling the sixth variation.
Yeah, I agree. The fifth variation stood out for me as well. It felt the most like an etude to me out of all the variations you were playing. I feel like what Kat is saying is absolutely, I think, bring out the top notes. Within that, you just look at the page. You see these shapes, and then terrace it and really make it clear to our ear. Also, it should be very different feeling from like variation 1, which, it's like the landscape is gone, what's going on, it's just the sole violin. But when you move on through the work, variation 5, there's action going on. So I need more movement and shaping is what I'm saying. Yeah.
I think it's honestly, I know it says non più vivo. I mean, I feel like everybody plays it faster. You're starting your descent into madness a little bit. So play with the beat. You have the freedom, and then you need to literally go nuts, right? And then you're going to reassert some kind of structure, but even that's a little messed up because it's too hard and it's too loud, right? You're starting to lose it, and then the furies. And so you're descending towards something. And I think it feels very measured. And I think that within the care part, you need to just, loosen, break free a little bit, because there's nobody keeping you to any particular kind of steady beat, and it's not really the time for it, right in this place. So I would say with variation 5, a little faster, a little freer.
Yeah.
And follow the line, of course. Everything everybody said. Do it all at the same time, right now. Go. I would do it a little quieter, so then when we go on, you can scare us because you're losing it.
The entire thing quieter?
This whole thing is piano, right? Variation 5 is piano. I mean, you want to shape within that. It seemed, like I said, the sound isn't great, but it seemed kind of mezzo forte. And if you're going to startle us with variation 6, I think it could be softer. Do you want to go on to variation 6?
Sure.
Okay, you're like, nope, but I'll do it.
Good, nice energy.
Yeah, that was very good. I'd love a more kind of like you're making it up on the spot feel.
Yeah, like your hair should be flying,
Yes. No, it was much better. I thought that was
Yeah, that was good. I was like, rock on, girl. I mean, it was exciting. That was awesome. Yeah.
that time.
Yeah.
I feel like you're taking us, by the hair, another hair analogy, but take us down the road. Why don't you do the very last bit, the last couple of lines?
Right. So I am a huge advocate of vibrato being used for color and not all the time. In this section here, I felt like there were some dead notes that I felt you should have vibrated. And then the notes that felt really good to vibrate sounded really good. So, it was obvious which chords you felt good about because it sounded great. And then the chords that were maybe a little bit more uncomfortable, even if you were to add a couple of wiggles to it, it just the tone, it just shimmers in a different way rather than a completely flat with a no vibrato. So if you can just be more mindful, and also the line, think about arrows, think about, so can you just play that last bit again? And just think about direction and think about your tone, your right arm, especially, get rid of all the crunchy crunches and just play with a really beautiful, gorgeous chord sound. Yeah.
Vibrato was better.
Yeah, I was happy with that.
I want to feel where you're breathing, Elizabeth. I can't feel, you know, like a singer where, you know, clearly after the third measure, da 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 dum, yeah, right? You're telling us something. You're going to have to stop, collect yourself, and go on. And particularly at the very last measure, you actually have a quarter note rest, right? And it almost felt like the same ellipse of time as any of the other times. I would really feel the freedom to take your time when you finish a thought, da 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 dum. Yum, body, da, da, right? The fourth measure, I can't sing chords, obviously, but you know what I mean?
Why
right?
not?
Or we can sing them together. No, I would just
Okay, yeah.
try to get vibrato, which I didn't think sounded more beautiful. She's gonna do it. And breathe, you know, take your time. Show me when you're done and you're thinking of the next thing. You've done this whole crazy movement, right? And now you're finishing up and you have something to say and punctuate it. You know what I mean? Take some time where there's time, where there should be time. You're in charge. That makes more sense to me.
Yeah, I would not take so much time the bar before the next to last bar, before the retard is. I mean, I know you want to breathe, beyond, beyond, beyond. It feels like it's slowing down too much, and then the last bar to me feels like, oh, we're slowing down even more. So, one more thing at the beginning of this little coda. I feel like your bow speed is very much the same on every single down bow chord. And I wish you could sustain a little from the middle of the bow to the top of the bow, like the yaw, like as a singer, like Sylvia said, to let it breathe and like you can vibrate, really project those yaw, like that. Do you mind trying that and leaning on the top note so that we still hear the melody?
Great. Awesome. Good girl.
Awesome.
So good. Are you going to stay on so we can talk to you afterwards? Yeah? Okay, good. I want to hear so much about you and all that. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Oh, bravo.
It's such a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And now Clark Snavely of New Berlin, Wisconsin, will play the third movement of Violin Concerto No. 2 in D minor by Henryk Wieniawski.
Well, that was exciting. That was so exciting. I love that you just go for it. You know, there's no fear, no holds barred. You just go for it. And I love that. I love the spirit. So great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was very impressive, Clark, really. It's just a crazy piece, right? I had a little issue with your rhythm. It was very rushy, I thought. And right off the bat, if you could carve out your 16th notes, and he's written it where it's 1, 2 notes, and then 2 notes. If you could, so we can hear every note. Also, I don't know if you play this with piano or orchestra, but there's 90 people following you. So once the horns come in and you gotta stick with that tempo. And of course you can, when the lyrical parts, you can slow it down, but right at Allegro Moderato, you gotta stay with the tempo because the orchestra won't be able to follow you. And a pianist probably wouldn't be able to follow you either. So do you mind starting right at the beginning and seeing if you can carve out those notes and really give a sense of the crescendo also? Good. Keep going. Jump in. Every single of your 16th note rests are too short. Really, you always jump in a little too soon. So really, you can play all this stuff. It's great. You could actually play it too fast. You're, I think, above tempo. If you just settle it back a little bit, I think it will have the sense of rhythm, con ritmo, he writes. So with like a strict rhythm. Yeah. Better.
I'd like to talk a little bit about your bow stroke. So I'm going to get a little bit into the technical aspects of all of this. So when you're speaking, you don't have a speaking voice that's robotic, right? You have all the ebb and flow of the emotions and the how you feel about a certain conversation, whatever. You're not going to be that robotic thing, right? It's the same thing with these 16th notes. I mean, you look at the page and it's like covered with 16th notes. So what do you do with this? You add a little texture. How do you add the texture? With your right hand, right? So a lot of this is very similar to like the Fifth Paganini Caprice or even the Last Movement of the Tchaikovsky Concerto. I don't know if you played any of those pieces, but it's very similar. Okay, well, you will. You certainly know them, you've heard them. And a lot of the stroke here is the sautiller stroke, which I would like to work with you. And just to vary it, I mean, if you think about where that spiccato lies, if you are up on the E string, then you can have a little bit more of a delicate, lighter stroke. And if you're on the G string, you have something a little bit more heavy. And at times you can even have something that's not even bouncing, And I feel like if you vary it within a phrase, instead of just playing all one kind of etude-like stroke with the metronome, I feel like you can really create a conversation within these 16th notes, like right from the very beginning. Let me hear just the beginning. Just here. Okay, just right there, even just within those two measures, I feel like it's all very similar. I mean, I feel like once you lift off, you can vary the stroke. I mean, it doesn't have to be equal, every single note equal. I mean, gosh, if you can do it equal, that's great. you know, but we're playing this concerto, and I'm going to out myself a little bit here as to what style I like. I really love the players who don't move so much, you know, like I don't like the boom cat, you know, like I don't like all the acrobatics. And what I really appreciate is somebody who has the solid technique to draw out a beautiful tone with the right hand and match it with the left hand with, you know, a gorgeous vibrato. And I feel like that is really what sets you apart from the other person, because the fingers are all going to be relative, right? Everybody's going to be able to play similarly fast, similarly slow, but what's really going to set you apart is how you turn that phrase. And even within the spiccato notes, you can turn a phrase. Do you know what I'm saying? So can we just try the first couple of measures? I don't want to go too far because, you know, there's so much content in here that we can work on, technically speaking, that I'd like to just work on your bow stroke, just playing an A, da 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 da. Just I want to see the lift off, but also the attack with the index finger to really be able to hear the texture of the note to start off with. Can we just play da 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 on the A string? Da 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 da. You got it. Just make sure that your bow is also not so crooked. You know, I can see pretty straight. Yeah, good. Gorgeous. Good. Now do that line. Da 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 da. All right, I'll try to play around a little bit more. Don't be so metronomic. Okay, so you just played it a little bit slower, but play with a little bit more Okay, so, you know, have you seen the gypsy dances before? You can YouTube at any point. Watch these girls dance. It's pretty amazing. I mean, it's like hair flying. Just you don't give a care in the world kind of dancing. There's no structure to it. They just move as they feel their bodies, as they hear the music. They're just the twirling and I mean, it's pretty impressive. And I feel like Wieniawski, you know, when he wrote this piece, that's what it was. It was like hair raising, crazy, you know, very virtuosic playing. It wasn't ever straight. You know, I mean, it's like the contact of the string. It's not so much. No, just try to create a phrase within that, just those two measures. Yeah, so much better. So much better. Yeah, just keep that in mind and watch those gypsy dances.
Okay.
Yeah. Sylvie?
I think that was a beautiful description of how to go about it. I think Kat's going onto the string as she leans into the melodic parts, right? I hear, for me, I was focused more on some rhythmic unintentionalities. Now, you've got the fireworks, you have a lot of facility, Clark, and it sounded great. Okay, I want to start with that. So I'm going to be picky. But even within what she's saying, I hear da 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 dee da, almost even. It's almost as if you've let go of the dotted part of the melodic part. So I would like you to take as much care with the melodic bits, and I know you're all over the place and you're climbing and you're, you know, all this stuff is going on, and we're all trying not to fall off when we play stuff like that. But I think that some of the melodic stuff is getting lost, like da yum bum bum. I hear da yum bum, kind of very, you know, kind of a workaday thing. I would like a bigger lift, and even da 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 dee. I hear da 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 dee da 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 da. Like, yeah, let's get this over with because I've got to get back up on the instrument, kind of a thing. Like dee da da dee da, more of a real triplet. So I think when there is an opportunity to lean into something melodic, I think those are opportunities well taken, because that's how you're going to contrast all these other things that you're able to do on the instrument. And so even in the beginning with what Kat was just describing to you, I lose track of even just that initial, anything that seems, not anything, I'm speaking broadly, but sometimes our slurred melodic kind of gestures are getting lost because of the other things that are going on. Could you start from ba-yum, bum, ba-yum, bum, bum, bum. Give us a nice lift, you know, get into it, enjoy this part. Fast ba-yum, bum, get it off, just go. spending a little too much time at the top on the harmonic. I wouldn't make it quite so long. I'd like a little more of a lift. That's just me. It seems like it's a little stuck.
I agree.
Yep. Could you da 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 dee da da dee da da da, like hold on to it. I hear da 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 dee da 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 da, the same every time, and I think that's okay once. But I think that within that, kind of what Kat was saying about your bow stroke, like, and the Gypsy Girls, which I haven't seen, but now I want to see it. That there's some variation. You're taking.
You've seen it in Carmen. Think about those girls dancing in Carmen. That's the Gypsy Girls.
Yeah, we see it at work. Back when there was work, Mark, we used to see it at work. You can do each one differently, but for them to each be da 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 dee is it's a little package to me. And I know you can do something else with it. Can you try it again? Thank you. So within that, the line are I want to be able to understand dee da da dee da 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 da. So I think the lines could be longer and much more intentional, so that it's not sort of a way station to get to the next virtuosic section, I guess. So we really kind of something special. Can you try it again? Da 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 dee. Good. So that when you're insisting, you don't then stop insisting for a minute. You know what I mean? So you're making your point known.
There's a certain conductor who will remain nameless, but these girls know probably exactly what I'm talking about, who asked us to play a certain part with wild abandon. You guys remember this, guys? Yeah. So let me tell you the same thing. Play with wild abandon. Like there's no care in the world. You just use that vibrato and, just really dig into the string. You're playing for a football field. Imagine when you hear that hiss underneath your ear, I promise you, no one in the hall is going to hear it.
And don't let up. When you insist, because you've got all these other things going for you. And I feel like you've thought a lot about how to conquer the technique. And so now we also need to think like, who is Clark? What does he feel about this melodic? You know what I mean? So that you continue it and you go. And I feel like obviously, I'm sure you're listening to recordings. There's somebody that you like, right, Clark?
Yeah.
Who do you like?
Perlman and Heifetz.
For this?
Yeah. Yes.
Have you seen the Perlman one where he's like on one of these late night shows and he's 14 or something?
God, yes.
Rushing like crazy, like he's just doing whatever he wants because he's a baby, right?
Of course.
But in general, yeah, no, those are great. But I would say, like, you at a certain point in our lives, we need to figure out why we like the people that we like. Do you know what I mean? Not just that I like this interpretation of this piece, but what's effective about it. And so when we try things on for size, and you're so lucky because you're learning at a time when you can watch all this YouTube stuff, and it wasn't like that when we were going to school. Like we had to go and get a record or sit in the library somewhere, and it just wasn't going to happen to the same degree. You can go through all these things, right? You can compare and you can decide, you try things on for size like anybody growing up and decide, how do I want to be? And how do I want to go about this? And you can see, and so it's time to actually intellectualize what it is that you like about it, right? That means melodically and technically, so that you can decide for yourself. And it's part of how any of us become the player that we are with an interpretation. But some of the playing seemed a little unintentional. And I think you have a lot of facility, you seem highly intelligent. I think it's time to turn your attention to some of those things in terms of ideas, in terms of what you want to do with the music, right? And then part of that is exploring what you like about the people that you like. I love to look at different YouTube versions of people playing things. It's super nerdy. Love it. I'm so into it.
Like Clark, where you are, do you have access to other types of things like dance and opera and all that other stuff? Like, do you have a performing arts facility near where you live?
Yeah, we're right at Milwaukee Symphony.
So like along with, I mean, I know this is a very strange time right now. This is not going to be forever. I hope. Gosh, from my mouth to God's ears, this is not going to be forever. But in any case, the whole point is that, like Sylvia says, you have so much at your fingertips, YouTube and whatnot. But when you do get a chance to go and see something live, especially like, I'm just going to put it out there, like a Carmen, right? Then you feel that electricity from the stage. You see the dancers dancing and whatever. And, there is really a correlation between something like that and this. You see the wild gypsy-like dancing. And when you actually visualize it and you see it, you can incorporate all of that into your own playing. And that's kind of a sort of education, for you when you're playing a piece like this, instead of just listening to, various different violinists playing it. You can also go and study other things, like watching a gypsy dance or watching a Carmen opera or, something else that's not the violin. And that's something that when I was growing up, I went to the Juilliard School and I was right in Lincoln Center and had access to everything. I went to go see operas, I went to go see the ballet, I went to go see all these different things. And I really feel like it helped me kind of widen my perspective on music and how I interpreted things. And I think that's definitely something that is important. I think you need to broaden your horizons and, step out of the violin world for just a split second and educate yourself about all the other art forms out there. Yeah.
Okay.
It's this piece too, Clark. It backs you into a corner. When you play technical piece, you get backed into the technical corner. You're like, I have to be able to play this stuff, right? And you're already doing a lot of that. So we're just encouraging you to now keep going in the direction because you have so much facility and it sounded really great. So that's why we're being, we're being insistent in these other ways about your being insistent about your musical point of view, because these pieces.
Probably also used to hearing a lot of singers, obviously, and we're used to this kind of vocal line of everything as melody and, bringing things out that way. And so, in the lyrical part, it even says in the music, dolce più tranquillo, and, right 4 bars later, compassiano. So it's like you wouldn't speak like a robot, like Kat was saying earlier. Every single phrase has a little bit different emotion, and that's what singers do. Every single word means something. So I think that's what we're encouraging you to do. Make it your own and fly.
All right. Well, Clark, you have such a beautiful setup. I mean, you're so very well prepared, and I am personally, I'm sure I speak on behalf of my friends. We're very impressed, and thank you so much.
Yeah, you sound really great.
Thank you. That's really nice of you guys to give your critique, and definitely working on watching the gypsy dancers.
Way to go. All right. Hopefully we'll see you and talk to you at the end.
Okay. See you.
Okay. Bye.
And now Abigail Yoon, a student at Snavely High School in New Jersey. Abigail will be playing Havanaise by Camille Saint-Saëns.
It was beautiful. You sound great.
Okay. Who do you study with?
Oh, I study with Ann Setzer.
And Spencer. Ah, very cool. We know her. Yeah. Yeah, so good. So I know we're talking a lot about Carmen here, but there's one really big, yeah, hopefully you did your homework on this before you play, right? Yeah. You know that there's a whole habanera rhythm. And have you seen the opera Carmen?
Oh, I've seen like clips of some of it.
So, in a lot of this, but like the rhythms here with that Cuban syncopation and all that, I would love to hear you kind of specify a little bit, add a little bit, like, in the very beginning, you got a lot of the da 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 da, ba, 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 ba. Those are not accents. It's not ka 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 pa. That it's not a big pow, right? But it's more of that shoulder, right? So let me see a little bit more of that shoulder movement there, and it's
Okay.
stop for a second. All right. So within the meter, within that bar, you can play around, especially in a piece like this. Nothing is ever straight and nothing is ever metronomical. In fact, it's antithesis. You want to play around with it. Da, 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 ba, 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 ba. And it doesn't have to be the same every time. It can be a little bit different. You can bring in that last eighth note a little bit sooner than you would, or even wait. Just imagine your own play and you're that vixen, right? And you're playing with your pianist and you're like, no, you're not getting any of this. Or yes, like, here I am. And okay, sounds a little dirty, but that's basically what this is. Basically what Carmen is, right? You want to play around a little bit and not play it so nicely. You want to give it a little bit of that edge.
You know what lucingero means? Do you know what the marking is?
I'm not sure.
Coax.
Google it right now.
It's coaxing, it's flattering. Sometimes I feel like this is piano, and sometimes we get into these sections where it's piano and it sounds almost forte. It sounds pretty healthy. And I think if you're going to do what Kat says and be a little more coquettish, you need to let us wait a little bit. I think also, when you listen to recordings of this, there are people that finger replace like almost everything because the theme gets repetitive. And I think we could maybe do a little more of that with your interpretation, but sometimes I think it's unintentional. So like your very first finger replacement comes in very slowly. And I think if you're going to do that, which I think you should, it needs to come in a little faster and a little, a little sweeter and a little more coquettish. I would bring the scale down of this a little bit. And then there are other places where it's piumoso and we're not quite speeding up. I think we need to kind of return to what the music says, in addition to what Kat said about being more coaxing and more alluring. La 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 la. I think if you miniaturize a little bit, then people have to come and get something. If you're like, hey, what's up? Nobody has to get anything. It's like all over the place. So keep something in reserve, right?
Okay.
That's better. I think a narrower vibrato would also help to keep this kind of in a different place here. You have time in other places to be more forthright. Let's see, there's an espressivo, there's a mezzo forte. I think we start a little more covered. So narrow vibrato, da, da, da. I would play around with maybe not returning to first position so much, but coming up, you know what I mean, onto the D string. Where appropriate so that you can set up your other slides later the way you want, but I think this can be more covered. And I think there's a lot of low string action when there could be more of you coming up. And those are just decisions that I think that need to be made. I would say also this is kind of moving on. There's so much of the same thing, but ya da 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 dee dum. Okay, so then you have the piumoso dee dum. I know the bow stroke's hard. It does need to go faster though, and so there needs to, you need to find the compromise. I don't know whether you want to play yet slower before then or just work on the bow stroke, but some of these changes that should be happening are not quite happening. And it's part of the charm to be able to switch back and forth and say a little something different, right? Can you start at C?
Yeah.
Great. One of you guys want to talk about the bow stroke? Or the...
I just want to work. I'll get back to the bow stroke in a second. The rhythm is bothering me a little bit. It's kind of what Kat was saying earlier. It's like da 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 da. It's like a skirt. But I hear you playing. I hear you going. Play, like they were saying, play around more with it, and you're accenting. That's not where the accent is. It also comes too soon sometimes, Abigail. So make up words. I love you so much.
I love that.
You know, something like that. Try. A little breath. I love you. I love you so much.
Yeah, so much better.
Much higher in the bow, Abigail. Like, did you see how when she demonstrated at the tip? So that would be part of kind of making this all on a smaller scale and more flirtatious. You try it closer to the tip like Catherine just did.
Make sure you vibrate also. The most expressive note needs to be vibrated.
Jumping back to that part Sylvia was talking about, the bow stroke. I don't know. It should be like da 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 da. How are you doing that? If you can kind of mess with the rhythm. Mess with it. Abigail, please don't go.
Don't use the E string.
Don't use the E string.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like in those the flying notes, I feel like yeah, it is a più mosso, but I feel like it sounds a little bit labored, and I feel like you can fix that by separating some bows, and then also you can achieve that up 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 if it's just not the entire thing. Do you know what I mean? So if you were to separate like the very beginning of that and then, you know, go on and do your virtuosic up up up, it would still achieve the same quality and not feel so stifled. Do you know what I mean? So you want to try that?
Like,
I think when I played this, I cheated.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. To separate it and then play the last,
Something like that.
Except now you have no excuse to lag in the beginning. Now you got to go flying. Da, ba, 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 da. That's definitely something to work on. You know, you just want that to be a little bit more fluid and not so stuck, you know? I want to go back a little bit to the Allegro. So I pulled out my metronome because I was curious to see, and I feel like you were just a little under. I don't know if that was on purpose. I don't know if you can hear this. Right? Okay. So that's 160. And you know, more live. Sorry, that's such a sin. I should never do that. Like woodwind players hate it when people do that, especially conductors. You know, they go, oh, one more thing, and they're like, oh. So I'm sorry, forgive me. All right. I'd like to see more line. You know, I mean, you see a lot of. I want you to add a little tiny little crescendo. You know, just play around with the. You know, all the different lines and whatnot. You're not playing just metronomics at 16th notes. You know, you want to create something, right? Okay, I promise I won't interrupt anymore. Yeah, that's so much better. That's so much better. And I would even like to see, like, in the very beginning, it can be a little bit more percussive, like more on the string. I mean, you're gonna lift off just a little bit, but just to make it really heavy, you know, and then even like the first couple of notes can be on, right? And then when you get to the forte piano, lighten it up, like really make that stroke really light for a couple of measures before it starts up all over again, you know? Okay, the energy, try again.
Sorry to break it. The accents, you need the structure of those. We get a couple and then we lose a couple. And I think that's part of laying this down.
Right. That was good. I feel like it was a little bit full speed ahead for me. I feel like when you get to that forte piano, that is your moment to really differentiate those, you know, couple of measures. Really get out of there. Hit that note, and then lighten it up. Like it's all about the right hand. And it's about how fast you can make that transition. And that's the technical part of it, right? Yeah. So that you're not spraying all over the place, that you have the control. So can we Just do 2 measures before that forte piano. I know that's a bad spot. Right there. Lighten it up right there.
Okay.
Sorry. The other thing that happens there, you know, when I say to lighten up, I mean also in the stroke, you want to lighten up the stroke, but also you want to keep the tempo going. I find that you pull it back a little bit there, just go, fly through that. Try again. Just go straight from the forte piano.
I think by the time the accents come, you can just be on the string much more and stop struggling with trying to get it to do something. I think once you, as per Catherine's point, that very light, very spiccato, and then by the time you're crescendoing down into the mezzo forte and you get into you don't need to be battling with it anymore. So you just make a few decisions about when you're going to go back on, and I think that it will tidy things up.
Okay.
One thing that might help with the forte piano is kind of follow the harmonic rhythm of what's going on there and think of it more in 2 for those 3 bars.
Yeah, that helps.
And then 4th bar, it's every beat again. And maybe you can, like she was saying, go on the string, or, you know.
Also the melodic part after, so we were talking about the then you have da 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 dee da da. I think so. It's molto espressivo, it's piano, and I think also a lot more covered. Can we try that melodic section, please? It's very literal, and I think kind of like what we were talking about at the beginning, you can give yourself more freedom, da da dee da, right? So even within that, you can have little diminuendi. It doesn't need to be so kind of stern. It feels almost like Brahmsian, and I would say just relax and let yourself play around a little bit. I can't tell totally because of the audio how soft we're starting, but I think you can always feel like there's some room to play softer, because then you're going to be forte and you're going to be a little more passionate and a little more forthcoming. The da da dee da, right? Da da dee da, right? So just it doesn't need to be so literal anytime that comes up in general, I would say. That was better. That was much better. We're cheating the dotted quarters just a little bit, but I like the gesture a lot. I think you're trying to get there, and that's kind of what's happening. And it can stay gentle. I thought that was much better. It was more playful. You want to go on a bit? What would the Catherines like to hear?
I think we've hit every part that I can think of in those first 3 pages.
Those are kind of the overarching themes.
Yeah. Yeah. That was great.
Sounds very
Thank you.
Good for you.
It sounds very pretty.
Yeah. Yeah. So do we want to open up a question and answer session just for the last couple of minutes that we're here?
Yes, absolutely. If anyone has questions for the panelists, you can enter them into the chat. Those come directly to the panelists. And in the meantime, if y'all would like to discuss any advice that you have for the performers, or we'd love to hear more about advice you might have for their musical careers.
I mean, I feel like music is essential, and without music, this world is a savage place to live in. I feel like they should absolutely, if music is something that they're passionate about, that they should absolutely go for it. And, you know, there's a place for music everywhere. And I know that we're living in hard times right now, but this is not forever. And I feel like even, you know, there are so many different platforms that we have right now. You know, we've got the Zoom, and, you know, this is the education part of it. But there's a lot of different ways to internalize music. And I feel like, you know, if it's something that they are passionate about at their age, I feel like this is exactly what they should be doing, is, you know, getting the advice of the professionals and really honing in on your technique. This is the time to do it, because when you get to our age, it's so ingrained in you that it's a part of you. And I feel like all the work needs to be done now. And if it's not done now, then it's very difficult to do it later, especially in a professional situation. So what you do now will prevent injuries later, you know, provided that you're doing a good job in really building your foundation, and a really good foundation at that. So look, it's like anything else, even in exercise. If you feel a little bit of pull or pain or whatever, you're doing something wrong. So this is the time to be ironing out those types of kinks and, you know, learning these types of pieces, all the technically difficult things that you probably won't get to when you're my age. But yeah, I mean, I did all of that when I was your age. Can I see your faces? I feel I'm like talking to Sylvia here, like.
There they are.
Yeah.
How old is everybody? I don't, we didn't establish that. I'd love to hear how old you guys are. How old are you, Clark?
I'm 14.
Oh my gosh, it's my daughter's age. How cute. I love it. How old are you, Abigail?
14.
You're 14 also? Oh my goodness. Y'all should come over and hang out with my daughter. And Elizabeth, we know that you were in university, right? In Seattle? Ooh, can't
hear you.
You're muted, girl. I know. This is the hardest part, right? Mime it for us.
Abigail and Clark, do you guys 21? She's
21. Okay. Yeah. Sylvia. I can't. This is why I'm doing it with these ladies, because they make me laugh.
Are you finding it difficult to practice during this time without having, I mean, obviously this is a lovely kind of a landmark to be working towards, but is it challenging? Yeah. You want to talk to us? Clark, why don't you unmute yourself and talk to us about what you're doing to stay active?
With violin or?
Yeah, with violin. With feeling like a violinist.
We've been taking Zoom lessons with other teachers as like a online camp, because that can't happen in real life.
Right.
And that's been the thing that I've been mainly working forward to. And then I'm in a youth orchestra and working towards, if there are auditions this August, making sure I can do that, and those are the kind of things that are encouraging me.
And Abigail, are you involved with the school? I mean, besides the tennis on high school?
Well, I'll be attending Juilliard Pre-College this upcoming year.
Oh, good. You'll see my daughter. She's a harp player there. So maybe you guys will play in the same orchestra. So good. So, and you'll be studying with Anne there at Juilliard? Mm-hmm. How exciting. Yeah, they have a great program. I don't know that they're going to be going live until November, something like that. Yeah. But how exciting. That's great. And Elizabeth, you're a music major. Oh, girl, can't hear you.
Happens.
Well, you know what, guys? We have a question. I see. Claire, can I read it out? Is that right? Yeah. It says, thank you so much for this masterclass. Do you have any advice on injury prevention maintenance when playing long operas like Wagner Ring Cycle? Oh, goodness.
Wow. Yeah, that's really difficult, especially for the string section, because we're playing basically nonstop. We're not like a woodwind player will, you know, I don't know. If woodwind players are watching, they'll come and beat me up. But really, the violins are the ones that play throughout the entire opera. And it is, you literally feel like, I mean, for me, honestly, at the end, I need like a water bucket for my butt more than my arms, because you've been sitting down for so long. But, you know, I mean, we've been conditioned to do this for so long. It's hard in the beginning, but, you know, we do have several intermissions that are about half an hour long. You just do stretches. And for me, the best thing is to make sure that I am in good form and that I'm sitting up straight. It's so easy in a span of a 6-hour opera for you to slump, but you can imagine what happens when you slump. You then begin to compensate with other muscles, and then you may pull something, or, you know, they're all connected. And if you pull one thing, it's connected to the other thing, it's connected to the other thing, and then you're screwed. So the best thing for me is to make sure that both of my butt cheeks are firm on the chair, and that I even out the weight on all sides, and that I make sure that I'm, you know, your chest is lifted, you're playing, and you're in good form. And that is the hardest thing to do, along with all the other technical difficulties. I mean, you literally have to have an eyeball everywhere on the stage, one on the conductor, one on your stand partner, one on your leader, one on the concertmaster, I mean, it's really, really hard, but it's something that you learn, and trust me, it took me a lot of years to figure that out. And also how my body felt afterwards. It took me a long time, and also it took me the hard way, really, to make the mistakes and then to recover and then start over again. You know, sometimes it takes a mistake to learn, right?
Yeah. I think we sculpt our whole day around it too. You know, I feel like even just, should I pick up the skillet? Probably not. Should I get the ladle? You know, I mean, all these little things. Don't carry this. Don't pick up your kids too much when you're a little smaller. You know, how much you would practice and what else you would do to make sure you're rested, and maybe you even have to have a nap. It's like an athlete. So if you're going to go and do that, it's not just physical, but as what Kat was saying, you're going to have to concentrate for that long, and, you know, not have to be castigating yourself afterwards. Like, why did I do that one extra thing? Is I couldn't think by the end of the third act or whatever it was. You have to literally treat your whole day like you're going to run a marathon later, and preserve your strength physically, emotionally, and intellectually, so that you can concentrate long enough and provide that kind of what Kat was describing, which is like, you know, race car driving at night kind of a thing, but going on and on and on and on, and have it be so many hours. It's very challenging. But on the other hand, we're all there together, and there's something to be said for that shared experience. It's pretty powerful, and it's really bonding. And plus, you know, it's the excellence of music. It's so beautiful. It's so wonderful. And so it's not like you're doing something you'd rather not be doing. Even when it starts to hurt, it's beautiful, you know, and you're part of something. And I miss that tremendously, as I'm sure all three of us.
I mean, and it's also being able to give yourself the time to rest. And that, I think, is difficult being a mother, and, you know, you feel like you're last. And I think really putting that focus back on how your body feels. If your body feels like crap the next morning, then you're going to take it easy, you know. And I feel like warming up also is key. You know, I can't play cold. I have to go in a little bit before and move my fingers, and, you know, then I definitely feel better. I do find that when I run in at the last minute, it feels awful, and that's when I suffer. Yeah. Of course, Advil always helps.
Yeah, we all have our tricks, right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much to everyone. Once again, thank you, the panelists, Sylvia Volpe, Catherine Rowe, and Catherine Fong, as well as the very talented performers, Elizabeth Hamilton, Clark Snavely, and Abigail Yoon. I hope you all will join us for our next masterclasses. We will be hosting these every 2 weeks on Sunday afternoons. You can find the complete schedule and apply to be a performer for an upcoming class at lessonface.com/METOMMC. And if you are a student in need of a teacher, you can find and book face-to-face online lessons with excellent music teachers, including many members of the MET Orchestra at lessonface.com. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Stay well and see everyone soon.
Thank you so much for having us. Thanks to all the performers. We're wonderful.
Yeah, I'm personally going to take a private with Sylvia and Kat.
Gypsy video.
All right. Bye, you guys. Stay safe.
Have a great day.
Bye.